Hi, my name is Misha Calvert, and this is Film on Tape, an audio library of everything that I have learned as a filmmaker. I really hope that this is helpful to you in some way. And if it is, feel free to check out my website, mishacalvert.com. You can see my writing and directing there, and you can also sign up for very occasional emails that I send. All right, on to the show. Today I'm going to tell you 3 of my biggest mistakes as a filmmaker. I hope that by opening up the treasure chest, I can save you some heartache, headache, possibly some money. These stories are funny, shocking, I don't know, painful to recount, but I want to be honest with you and I want to be real with you about some of the actual things that can come up in your career as a filmmaker and how to handle them, what to do when they do come up. So the first mistake that I will tell you about, seared into my memory, is the time that I was working on a series that I created, and I had also been dating the DP. We had been dating for about 6 months, and he offered to shoot the series for free. And this was back when we were getting along. He made this offer. So obviously, that takes a huge chunk out of the budget if a DP is kind enough to offer to shoot it for free. So I said yes. Then, right before we were about to film, he dumped me. I remember exactly where we were. We were sitting on a bench in Williamsburg looking out at the water, and I went catatonic. I couldn't think or move or speak. I was so hurt. He also was a pathological narcissist, which I didn't even know what that meant at the time. This was a while ago. And later on, I put all the pieces together and I realized what was going on many years later. But anyway, if you've ever been dumped by a narcissist, you know how absolutely damaging it is. I think his sentence was, I don't love you. We're not together, but I still want to shoot your series in one breath. I should have just run at that point, but I didn't. And I still loved him. So I wanted to spend the time with him on set. I just wanted to be around him still. And clearly I wasn't ready to move on. So I decided to continue with the plan to work with him as a DP, and he would shoot it for free. I would just get through the filming, and that would be that. Worst decision I could have made. Okay, I am interrupting myself for one hot second to let you know that this month, secretly it's every month, I am doing a giveaway of 1 free hour of coaching with me to someone who leaves a 5-star review. Make sure that your first name and your last initial are in the review. Drop me a DM on Instagram and let me know that you submitted, and then I'm just going to pick at random. I really appreciate you listening, and I so appreciate you leaving a 5-star review. Thank you. And now back to the show. I should have fired him. I should have said, no, thank you. I'll figure it out. Because even though it was late in the process and it felt like it was too late to find somebody, it is never too late to replace if the replacement means that you are going to be in good mental health as a result. Continuing forward with that person, with that toxic presence, was a serious detriment to my mental health. So what ended up happening on set, he doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't really even like me anymore because he's a narcissist. So I'm out. I suck. He hates me. He's already, devalued me. So we get on set. I'm the director and the writer. Every time I would give him a direction, he would either roll his eyes, he would laugh in my face, or make a little snitty comment, or just say, no, that's a bad idea. This is in front of the whole crew, whoever was around camera at that time. So obviously just undermining me every chance he got. And just so you don't think that it's me being hypersensitive, one of the actresses, one of the supporting characters, she was in a lot of the scenes. She came up to me at one point in the middle of the shoot and she said, Misha, I just want you to know that the DP made me cry this morning. I said, what the hell are you talking about? She said, no. He didn't say anything to me. I cried because of how he was speaking to you. It really hurt my heart to watch it and to listen to it. I'll never forget that. That was a very damaging experience. And basically I got through the end running on just pure adrenaline and desperation to finish. Then in post, I completely cut him out of that whole process because I never wanted to see him or speak to him again. By the time I got through it, you wrap the film or the show and you finally can breathe. And I found clarity at the end of that process. Like once we had wrapped it, I was seriously just running on adrenaline. And then once we wrapped, I was like, oh, right, now that we're done, like I can see that was truly terrible. There's no reason that anyone should ever behave that way to anyone on set. Got it. Okay. I'm just going to self-protect and try and get through the edit myself and get through color myself and just really try to not interact with this person ever, ever, ever again in my life. And it pretty much worked. However, I did have bronchitis for 9 months after that. I was so physically and emotionally and mentally depleted that I could not get rid of my bronchitis for 9 months. I was a coughing, wheezing mess. And it took a long time to recover. It took until my next relationship to recover from that person. And I don't encourage, unless you have a strong, strong relationship that's years old already, I don't encourage working with people that you're dating. There's too much on the line for both. You could lose your relationship or you could lose the project or compromise the project or compromise the relationship. So I do not encourage that. There's some people who make it work. And as a couple, that lends itself to working together. But really, that's not everybody. So I just say, be careful with that. Also, if you're the boss on that set, you want to be able to fire people. You need to have that option. That's any good business. You should never feel like you are imprisoned by any single hire. If they stop doing their job or if they start creating a toxic, abusive work environment, you need to be able to part ways contractually. So mixing business with pleasure, that makes those invisible contracts sometimes more binding than the actual contracts you have. Because actual contracts, it's very clear when you're within your rights to fire somebody. The invisible contracts of romance, not so clear. So I think hire slow, fire fast, and don't shit where you eat. That's my advice for that one. Speaking of contracts, my next mistake that I want to warn everybody about is agreeing to something in film or television without a contract. I have heard absolute horror stories about this, and I have lived one myself. So I'll tell you a little bit about this particular story in the hopes that you can learn from my mistakes. I was working on a project where the entity that was hiring me gave me a certain amount of money to make this project. I was the writer and director. And it was a set number. It was not a large number. And the project that I had set out to make, probably we never should have agreed to make it for that number. It was just too much project for the money. People who watch it now, this particular project, and they know when I tell them how much it was made for, their jaws hit the floor. They're like, absolutely not. That's not possible. It's not possible that you made it look so good for that amount of money. That's crazy. I say, yes, it was crazy. That was me, crazy, going crazy on set, trying to make it work for this money. As a result, we went over budget. Happens all the time. But for this one, we went, I would say 50% of the budget plus. So it was 50% over budget. It was not a huge budget, but 50% is a large number. So before that money was spent, I made the people who had hired me aware, hey, we're nearing the end of production and it looks like we're probably going to go over budget. And if you want post-production done in the manner that we spoke about, we're definitely going to go over budget. So they said, what's the projected amount? I gave them the projected amount and they said, okay, we think we can cover that. Okay, great. Knowing that it's going to be covered, I think it was a phone conversation that I had with one of their producers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue making the show, and we're not going to exceed the over budget amount that I quoted you, but we are going to spend that amount just to cover our bases and to finish the show. So that's what we do. Finish production, finish post-production, get to the end. I'm like, okay, great. Here's the invoice for the amount that we went over because that came out of my pocket. I had to front that money out of my savings account in order to pay everybody and finish the project. And then it was, okay, well, actually, we can probably only split it 50-50. Oh, okay, well, that's a different story. Then follow up a little bit later to see if we can actually settle up and I can get that. half of that money. Oh, actually, we can't give you anything at all. Now, there's two people in this conversation. There's them and there's me. So I just want to take full responsibility that I agreed to this setup for me to spend money out of my pocket without a contract. I cannot blame it on them. I participated in this bad deal. So I really encourage you to not be a victim in your filmmaking and in your financial deals. Just because someone does something that's irresponsible or even malevolent, which is not the case in this story. I think it was negligence and irresponsibility and not malice. Don't make yourself the victim by putting it all on them. I agreed to that deal that was made over the phone, and I should have gotten a contract stating as much. But even then, what are they going to do? What am I going to do? Go to court? Am I going to go to court over, $10, $20, $30,000? Maybe. But if somebody breaks a contract, your option is to either work it out person to person and make them do what you want out of sort of convincing, or you have to go to court. And that is just so not fun. It takes up so much time. You lose so much hair fretting about it. So I wasn't going to go to court, but I ultimately, I paid a lot of money out of my savings for that. And then finally, I think a year later, I had my lawyer. I was like, look, this is ridiculous. Can you please just try to get something? And so we found a section of the contract that was a little bit, had them on the hook. And I think I got about $5,000 out of them. And the person I was dealing with was absolutely lovely, by the way, but she didn't have control over the way everybody else was functioning. So I managed to be able to work with her to get some of that money back that I spent. Moral of the story is get a contract for everything, especially if you're working with people you like, because lines can get blurry, right? Especially always get a contract just so that there's some legal framework for what you're trying to do. Knowing that, even if you get a contract, it does not mean that you are fail-safe. If you don't like the deal and the deal makes you really uncomfortable and you're not willing to go to court, maybe don't make that deal. But in general, most deals are, if you're responsible for the terms of that deal, you should make a deal that you're comfortable with. And don't sign a contract that you're uncomfortable signing. Oh, also another moral of the story is have a good entertainment lawyer. I love my lawyer. I don't know if I've talked about this before. I freaking love my lawyer. He's so great. I love my lawyer. I owe so much to him. He is such a badass, and he saved me so many times. Thank you so much, David. All right, the third mistake that I made as a filmmaker and how to solve it. This one's hard to talk about. The other two were sort of low-hanging fruit, but this one is, I feel shame around this. I just realized that's why I'm hesitant to talk about it. But I think what I want to tell you is that the mistake was not starting sooner. I really did not like myself when I was growing up. I spent many years wishing that I was anyone but myself. I remember sitting in my room wishing I was any person other than myself. What a horrible, extraordinary thought to have. And that really stayed with me for a very long time. I had trouble appreciating myself in high school, in college. When I got to New York, I had no idea who I was, where I was, what I was doing. I had dreamed of Hollywood since I was 8 years old. I saw an award ceremony. I think it was the Daytime Emmys when I was 8. And I thought, I want that. Yeah, I want to do that. I see myself there. I had always known, but I had so much damage in childhood that the idea of me felt really, really low and small. And the idea of Hollywood felt really, really big and far. My view of myself was so low and my view of Hollywood was so high that I just didn't think I could ever cross that chasm. I didn't think the two would ever meet. And when I would think about trying to step onto the stage of show business and put myself in the arena, I would cry, like in class in my acting conservatory. When we got to Industry Week, where we were going to meet casting directors, I remember the teacher announced it, and I started to cry in class in front of everybody. I was so anxious about falling short and not measuring up, and finally being faced with the truth, quote unquote, that I did not belong in the place that I had wanted to be for my entire life. So the idea of starting was really, really painful. I think one thing maybe that I'm only just putting together finally got me to start. I mean, I was an actor, and that was modeled for me through school, right? Doing community theater and school theater. So I had someone kind of helping me up into the arena at that time through theater. So performing as an actor was modeled for me as possible, but the idea of filmmaking, I mean, I just had no modeling whatsoever. I think one of the things that helped me to give less of a fuck about acting and about eventually filmmaking was that my mom was in an accident. She was in a terrible, life-threatening accident where she almost died, and she became brain damaged and paralyzed on one half of her body. She's still alive, but she will never be okay again. And that whole event really, really fucked me up pretty bad. And I think something like that happens and it puts your whole life in perspective. You realize the things that you've been caring about maybe really aren't as important as you thought. Life is short. You could die any day. You could die tomorrow. And if you're lucky, you get 80 years on this planet. I thought a lot about where I was and what I was doing with my life. And I think I actually gave up on acting and gave up on show business. I hope it's okay that I'm giving you the long version of this story. It's all just kind of coming to me as I'm going into the memories. But I actually gave up on acting and decided that I would just try and make money and do like self-preservation mode. Just try and pay off my credit card debt, pay off my student loans, get my shit together, be responsible, and give up on my creative dreams. And that was when I met a producer who wanted to produce some of my writing. That was the very first time that happened. After that, I just didn't stop. As soon as I was a creator of my own work, I never looked back. And it was maybe one of the things that helped me to recover from my mom's accident and the horrible repercussions of that. It gave me something to obsess about, to focus on, that was positive, that was creative, that was constructive. But my God, if I had started sooner, if I had just had the confidence and the perspective and the context of, I have a right to exist, I matter, my thoughts and my feelings matter, my perspective is interesting, I have value. These were new concepts that I came to later in life. And I wish for everybody listening, wherever you are in your development, however old you are, to consider that you, exactly as you are, have a right to exist. You matter. You have a beautiful heart full of beautiful feelings that can be turned into a creative work. Whether you're an actor, whether you're a writer, director, producer, designer, whatever your calling is, this world, in many ways, is designed to grind you down into nothing so that others can profit and feel better. And I just urge you to fight for your right to exist and to have a voice. It is so, so important and so changing, transformational to everything. So just start valuing yourself. The more you love and accept and forgive yourself, the more you are going to be able to jump into action starts now. My career starts now. Now is the moment of transformation where I will make something out of nothing. I will find the courage to reach out because I know that there's actually nothing to lose. The only guaranteed loss is that I'm going to die. One day I'm going to die. So why the hell not start now? And just in a very bottom line kind of way, if I had started in my early 20s, I would be so fucking rich by now. I would be running Hollywood if I had started earlier. So, just from a paycheck perspective, figure it out, love yourself, start now. It's okay to be bad at first. You're not going to be bad forever, probably not even for that long. So don't wait till you're in your 30s like I did. Start now. All right, that's it. What a vulnerable, didn't expect to go into that much detail, but these are the mistakes I made, and I really, really hope my bucket of secrets here has been helpful in some way. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to Film on Tape. I really hope that it was helpful to you in some way, and if so, please feel free to leave a 5-star review so that other people know this is a good podcast. If you want to check out my work as a writer-director, you can see it at www.mishacalvert.com or drop me a DM. The best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram at Misha Calvert. See you next time.